I've been trying to avoid the slight waifu bias I have towards Shoukaku. I mean, she was my Konkole waifu for the entire time. Okay, well, she still is. Well, I guess some things just can't be avoided, huh? However, I do really wonder how these two would interact with each other. I mean, they almost have the exact same personality as well, so I'd imagine they'd get along quite well. Zuikaku, on the other hand, well, let's just say one of them can't be called Flight Deck Chest, as one of them was in the anime. However, that other one also has... Moving on to another pair, this time we're covering the Crane Sisters Shoukaku and Zuikaku. This is one of the few times where it's better to review these two together, as they, like some of the Sakura Empire backliners, have unique benefits and mechanics that only work when they're paired together. So now let's take a look at some of IJN's very own carriers. Shoukaku and Zuikaku are SR carriers that originated from the Visitors Died in Red event. They aren't in the permanent build pool yet, but I'd imagine it will be soon for those of you looking to add them to your collection. However, we do have the well-known duo from 3-4 known as the Fox Twins. Since both sister groups are SR rarity, how well does the Crane Sisters compare to the Fox Twins? Well, let's see if we can put this long-existing rivalry to rest. To be a bit more organized here, I'll be comparing the 5th carry division versus the more well-known 1st carry division. I'll also be comparing both of the Crane Sisters against the Fox Twin that is closer to them. You'll see what I mean later on down the line and why I chose them. To let you know immediately, I'll be comparing Zuikaku against Akagi and Shoukaku against Kaga. So let's dive into their stats now. Since the Crane Sisters don't exactly match in stats, let's look at Zuikaku first and compare her against Akagi. While both have medium armor, Zuikaku does have a noticeable advantage in health pool. Zuikaku also has the advantage of a slightly higher evasion, but as a backliner it's still low enough that she's still very likely to be hit by attacks. If both were to be attacked by planes, their anti-air stat is identical, so they should take the same amount of damage from air-based attacks. In terms of attack power, Zuikaku also barely beats Akagi in terms of aviation, but this comes at the cost of having a slightly slower reload than Akagi. This just means that Zuikaku will be the last one to release their airstrike. While Zuikaku has a slot for each plane type, she loses a fighter for an additional torpedo bomber. Their efficiencies are similar, save for fighters, as Zuikaku has a small 5% efficiency advantage over Akagi. The last thing to point out is that Zuikaku also has a considerable advantage with her luck stat, so she'll benefit in 3 main areas more than Akagi will. It's interesting that on paper, Zuikaku is a slightly better pick than the well-known Akagi, which is honestly fine by me. Stay back, you yandere However, we have yet to take skills into effect. We'll just be covering Zuikaku and Shoukaku's skills here. Akagi and Kaga will get their own time later on. I will say that the Fox Twins' skills do make them a lot better than they might sound here. However, for now, they aren't the main focus here, so let's look into Shoukaku's stats. Unlike Zuikaku, Shoukaku doesn't have as much of a health advantage as she's pretty much on par with Kaga. She does win the evasion comparison, but as stated before, she's still likely to be hit with it. Both have medium armor, but unlike before, Shoukaku has a slightly higher anti-air stat compared to them all. On the offense side of things, Shoukaku is also like her sister when compared to the Fox Twin. She's slightly stronger in terms of aviation, but that does come at the cost of a slightly lower reload. Shoukaku also follows the carrier standard trio, but gains quadruple torpedo bombers instead of the 3-3-2 setup. Her efficiencies, however, are exactly identical to Kaga's efficiencies. Unlike her sister, Shoukaku's luck stat isn't much of a difference as well, so she'll benefit, but not as much. While Shoukaku doesn't stand out when compared to Kaga, she's still pretty much on par with Kaga in terms of stats. So it feels like these two sets of carrier sisters don't really seem that different in terms of neutral game. However, their skills are where things get interesting. Unlike the Fox Twins, the Crane Sisters don't share the same skill sets. Both of them have their own unique skill, along with their paired skill, Gokosen, or 5th Carrier Division. 5th Carrier Division does different things for both of them. For Zuikaku, her aviation is increased and her overall damage is reduced by up to 20%. Shoukaku, on the other hand, gets a 30% increase to aviation, but suffers a 5% increase in damage taken. Do note that this skill only activates when the two of them are sorted together. The damage increase for both of them is nice, and Zuikaku's damage reduction would make her considerably tanky, especially since she does have a higher health pool. However, even though the damage increase is only 5%, that still is not entirely ideal for backliners. Thankfully, this can be countered by Safe Mode's buff, or even further with skills like Shiranui Retrofit's Carrier Escort or Hammond's Flagship Cover. So it's not like one can't counter this skill's downside. Honestly, it wouldn't hurt to take advantage of this since Zuikaku just gets even tankier. However, this isn't their only skill. Zuikaku's individual skill, Crane's Endeavor, allows Zuikaku to permanently, well, okay, just for the battle, permanently increase her airstrike's damage by up to 20%. Now this can be stacked up to 3 times, allowing for a total increase of 60%. While the 60% increase to damage dealt is a nice thing, this skill is only activated each time that she sends out an airstrike, meaning that some considerable time is going to have to pass before she can even reach her full power. It's honestly more likely that the battle will be over before she can actually reach her maximum power output. Nonetheless, this skill can still be pretty powerful if the fight does drag on for that long. With Shoukaku, she has the skill Crane's Protection, which is honestly a really nice fleet-wide buff that grants the entire fleet up to 10% more damage dealt to enemies, while also reducing damage taken by up to 10% as well. I wasn't able to see if Crane's Protection was capable of negating the damage increase with 5th Carrier Division, but something tells me it would negate it. With their skills, they seem to take a very different stance in the backline compared to the Fox Twins. Zuikaku works as the high damage carrier that gets stronger as the fight drags on. Shoukaku, on the other hand, seems to be working on a more defensive stance, taking something like a paladin stance if we were in an RPG. So the real question is, would it be worth it to sortie them together? The only downside is that Shoukaku does take more damage, but we know that that could be countered somewhat by other skills. Pairing the two of them together would also be beneficial as their overall damage output does increase a good amount, especially for Shoukaku. It wouldn't be a bad thing to have them sortie separately, as they'll still have their own skills to help out. So now the other question is Boss Fleet or Mob Fleet? This is probably the first time where I'd say they'd be fine at either. Zuikaku's boost to her damage output will help her dish out a lot more damage, so you'll see her dealing more damage than her sister. Shoukaku might not be able to dish out that damage, but her ability to make the fleet tanky can help for longer fights. The only real downside to them being sorted together is that you have to pick between whether you want to have a last line defense BBBC or having a healer. So I guess that could be an issue if you're using mob fleets. Well, then again, I guess you could just use Arizona, of course. Now, Arizona can't entirely save you from planes, so you'll have to account for that. Of course, there's plenty of ships to help you with that particular issue. Overall, both of them are relatively as effective as the Fox Twins, but their skills allow for some alternative playstyles. They may not be as fast as Akagi or Kaga, but they are a lot more team-oriented in design and allow for some interesting synergies. Even on their own, they could still contribute to the team in one way or another, so they are worth a level up if you would like to have some more options for your fleet. I can't say they are direct replacements for the Fox Twins, but if you don't have the Fox Twins, then honestly the Crane Sisters do make a pretty good substitution, so get them when you can. And that will be all for the Crane Sisters. Hope this helps you guys in your future endeavors and that you enjoyed this video. As usual, the list is shown on screen now. If there is a ship that is not on the list that I've also not covered, then let me know as soon as possible and I will make sure she is on it soon. Up next is Warspite. And I actually realized this is our first battleship that we'll be covering. So look forward to her video when it comes out. Whether you're a regular viewer or a patron supporting the channel on Patreon, thanks for watching and I will see you all again real soon.